I have two thoughts about this. One is President Trump made this a unilateral decision. He didn't consult with the allies. He didn't consult with the Pentagon or the State Department or NATO itself. So there's no details. But secondly, by targeting Germany, it really demonstrates yet again the very poor relationship between Berlin and Washington, in particular between Chancellor Angela Merkel and President Trump. And thirdly, if this goes ahead, it will actually damage the United States, because not all US troops based in Germany are just for the NATO area. It's for America's strategic interests in Africa particularly. So it's got to be remembered that the basis in Germany, particularly Stuttgart, is crucial as a logistics hub and a training hub for the US troops that are deployed in Africa.
Now, Judy, I was reading through some recent research that you put out, also pointing to the implications for Russia. What is Russia likely thinking at this moment on the back of this decision?
Well, there's nothing like the Russian policy of divide and rule, and they must be quietly pleased with President Trump's decision if it's implemented, because the feeling in Moscow is that some of the allies will, for instance, Poland, will try to get much, much closer to perhaps the United States, not bypassing NATO as such, but try to have a much closer bilateral strategic and military relationship with the United States. But, you know, as Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General, knows well, you know, a divided Europe and a divided NATO is exactly what Russia wants. All the more reason that the NATO allies have to stick together.
And, you know, coming back to Jens Stoltenberg, Hadley asked him whether China or Russia was actually the biggest immediate threat to NATO allies, and he effectively said neither, that nobody poses an imminent threat against any NATO ally. But what's your take on this? I mean, clearly he's trying to give the impression that the relationship is solid, but is that realistic?
I think it's very, very complex and dangerous in NATO's relationship with Russia. And we're just not talking about the military element. It's cybersecurity. It's fake news. It's Russia spreading all kinds of disinformation about NATO. And of course, Russia is around the corner from the Baltic states. The Baltic states are always very, very nervous. That's the Russia threat. It is there. It's on our doorstep. It's in Ukraine, and it's on cybersecurity. As for China, I mean, China, we just have to look at what China is doing with artificial intelligence, with cybersecurity, with trampling down on human rights in Hong Kong, and its role in Africa, and particularly its role among NATO allies in Central Europe. China has a big economic presence among these countries, so NATO should be very, very worried.
And I guess pivoting slightly, but keeping with China, we've been covering the dispute between China and India over the last couple of weeks. I'm curious how you see this playing out, and do you expect India to attempt to boost its ties with America, perhaps on the back of what's unfolding at its border?
It's extremely dangerous what's happening on the border, and it could escalate. It's going to demand outside influence, particularly serious diplomacy from Washington to actually de-escalate these tensions. But if China believes this kind of tension will push India into the sort of ambit of the United States, well, this may happen, but it'll only increase tensions even further between Beijing and Washington. The point is that there's a real lack of diplomacy at the moment. And diplomacy and negotiations are crucial to try to rebuild confidence. And this is absent at the moment because largely the United States is absent from the whole role of diplomacy.